My name is Jenna Haji, and I was born in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. I grew up in and around the Greater Toronto area and currently reside in London, Ontario, where I work as a pediatric speech-language pathologist and run my own small business as a yoga teacher and wellness facilitator. This year, I was offered an opportunity to write my personal story in a compilation book. It can be really daunting to reflect on your whole life at once, and I can now say it was both the most vulnerable and most cathartic process. My book, Ignite Your Wisdom, was published in May 2022, and my story has become what I hope will be a beacon of hope for someone else looking to find their way. The book cover is scattered with soaring birds, a symbol of taking flight into new chapters of our story. The title of my chapter is called Falling in Fearless Love, and it takes the reader through my journey from perfectionism to unconditional wholeness by way of abandoning fear and letting love reign. Now, I didn't get that perspective overnight. I've battled with anxiety my entire career as a human. Part of that anxiety for many people is fueled by perfectionism, not only of myself, but of my vision for my life. We chase happiness as if it's a goal, and we chase beauty and beautiful life experiences as if they are a destination. Somewhere along the stressful journey of completing my master's degree, I discovered the practice of mindfulness. The art of mindfulness has been a tool that has anchored me through many of life's challenging moments, including the highly uncertain, anxiety-filled period of the global pandemic. But I quickly came to realize that the traditional form of practicing mindfulness, that is, through meditation, wasn't enough when I experienced my greatest loss of life. On July 26, 2020, I lost my fiancé and partner of 8 years to suicide at the age of 31. I was only 25 at the time, and I watched as one life ended and as mine forcefully erupted. I became quickly immersed in a landscape of darkness and hopelessness. It was here when I felt like I had lost everything, as if nothing in life could ever be beautiful again. Birding has become a part of my healing process. It's an activity that I choose consciously when I need to reconnect with something bigger than myself, and when I need to remind myself how much beauty exists in the world around me. Growing up in the city means that more often than not, your exposure to nature's great abode is through your houseplants. The flying creatures you see most often day to day are of the airplane variety. Funny enough, my name Jenna means little bird. I used to harbor a secret that I thought seeing a huge flock of birds all at once meant good luck was coming my way. Now, I broadcast that idea to the world because I think it's more true than ever. Even if you don't win the lottery, you've just scored a moment of mindfulness. During the pandemic, when most activities were restricted, my best friend and her husband had started birding as a novice hobby in the only place we could go at the time, outdoors. After losing my partner, they graciously welcomed me aboard their expeditions to local parks and birding hotspots, and the rest is history. I've always been a hobby photographer, and I love to capture beautiful moments. Birding became the perfect activity to give me something focused to do. Looking for birds, taking pretty pictures. With time, I've come to appreciate birding as much more of a process-oriented activity rather than outcome-oriented. And while I still love using my camera to zoom in on the magic, I can immerse myself in it without any tools and be completely entertained. I love the springtime for birding. The babies hatching and the little ducklings following their mama. It signals to me a time of release, rebirth, and growth. Most of my birding activity has taken place here in Ontario, but I did recently travel to Hawaii, and I was totally enamored by some of the new species I discovered. I love visiting the coves to see some of the water birds. Kamoka Provincial Park always promises black-capped chickadees. I love seeing the waxwings here at Sharon Creek Conservation Area, and if I'm ever looking for a cardinal, Springbank Park will never disappoint. Last fall, my friends and I ventured to Point Pelee in hopes of catching a glimpse of the great monarch butterfly migration. Though monarch numbers are dwindling, and while the intended adventure was not as successful as we thought, we did happen upon a field of flowers hosting a nectar retreat for dozens of hummingbirds. The buzzing and flitting was such an interesting sensory experience and truly captivating, marking one of my favorite birding experiences. Thinking about the socio-political landscape is often something that keeps me up at night. I get most frustrated thinking about the rapid speed of habitat destruction for the purpose of constructing new homes and business developments. I'm also an advocate for fixing the housing crisis and finding accessible shelter for our homeless population, but I don't think those two endeavors are mutually exclusive. Rising temperatures due to global warming are affecting migration times of birds and also the accessibility of their food and nesting material. I've also read about breeding success diminishing when waters are as warm as they are becoming. Sometimes it seems we need to spell out for people that their contribution to climate change is leading to endangerment and extinction of species that are crucial for the maintenance of not only ecological biodiversity, but of environmental stability. When my partner passed away, I questioned everything. My belief system was shaken, and I began to think more and more about the afterlife. I've heard that many bereaved people received signs from their loved ones. I was so desperate to connect with my late fiancé, and I would look for him in anything you could think of. When I stopped looking so hard, I started noticing the signs appearing. First, a robin, then a cardinal. I'd visit the cemetery on a cold winter's day with nothing but snow and stillness around me. Then, out of nowhere, a vibrant red cardinal would appear on a branch just above me. I'd look into the sky some mornings, full of tears in my eyes, and just whisper, "Are you out there?" Out of thin air, a huge flock of geese would soar across the sky. A kingfisher would land on a post in the pond behind my home. A blue heron would dive in for an afternoon snack. A sparrow would sit on my windowsill. A cardinal would start singing. The cardinals seem to know something we don't. A few months ago, I had my first ever session with a psychic medium. When I asked her what signs I was being sent, she simply said, he's showing me a bird. Lots of birds sometimes. Other times, just a single red one." I've always been fascinated by birds. Their weightless bodies soaring through the sky, feathers meticulously arranged. In some ways, birds are great metaphors for many of life's greatest lessons. The first is in the value of rest. In general, birds, exhausted from their morning of foraging and feeding their young, rest in the shade-laden branches during the middle of the day. They seek rest ahead of their next crusade. Birds also teach us about seasons. Different birds are present in different seasons. Some migrate during the winter, some enter an almost hibernating state. Just like birds, I think we go through stages and seasons of energy. Some seasons bring bountiful harvests of courage and ambition, and others call us to turn inwards and heal more quietly. The next lesson is to flock together. We all know the saying, "Birds of a feather flock together." My greatest pleasure is in seeing dozens, and if I'm lucky, even hundreds of birds take flight at once. There's something truly remarkable about being reminded by nature that there are forces greater than ourselves at play. Our very individualistic, competitive society often fails to remind us that our greatest strength manifests in community, when we are surrounded by solid support systems and people we love and trust. Birds also teach us about flexibility. Life is full of transitions. Anyone who's ever fallen into the perfectionism trap knows the devastation of your detailed plan being thrown for a loop by life events. Birds have adapted to thrive despite changes in their environment, and they have a lot to teach us about going with the flow. And the final lesson: beauty is abound. 10 seconds spent watching a bird sing is enough for me to be filled with a sense of wonder. How marvelous that such a tiny creature can make such magical music. How mysterious that a little robin can travel a great distance to find food and still navigate back to its nest to feed its young. How awesome are the vibrant reds of the northern cardinal and the ocean hues on a blue jay. Ducks are ducks, but if you're paying attention, you can be captivated by the mystical iridescence of their feathers. Beauty is all around us, if we only remember to look. I would never hesitate to recommend birding as a practice to support mental health. At its very foundation, birding requires you to get outdoors. Being in nature has a long list of well-researched mental health benefits. So does mindfulness. Birding is a perfect activity to bridge the two. Now that I've been trained in yoga and mindfulness meditation, I can without a doubt say that mindfulness is so much more than sitting still. It's about connecting with yourself, your thoughts, your body, your sensations, your actions, and your environment. Birding has brought me a true sense of peace. It has become a ritual for connecting with myself and finding power in something greater than me.